Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is acceptance. And looking forward to sharing it with you and having a dialogue. And before we get started, let's just settle in, take a minute or two here, and let's take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it and fill your lungs with oxygen and imagine that wonderful, wonderful, life giving energy moving through your body and through your cells, through your bloodstream, and enlivening and awakening every part of you. And as you exhale, exhale any tension in your neck, in your shoulders, in your back, and just relax. And let's take another deep breath in. Hold it and imagine that it's sparkling white light just lighting you up from the inside out, and it's flowing through you and beyond you and connecting you with the world and the vitality of everything around us. And as you exhale, just release any remaining tension. Allow yourself to relax. And now we'll just take our palms and gently press them together and softly rub your fingers against your palms so that you feel the tickling in your fingers and the tickling in your palms and the deliciousness of that sensation, and just allow yourselves to become present right here, right now. And good morning, Abuelita. Welcome from Hemlock, Michigan. And Dido, good morning. And welcome to everybody else who's here with us. Thank you all so much for being here. So today's topic is acceptance. And I was thinking about acceptance and how so much of our allowing life to happen happens when we move into acceptance from resistance. However, I think acceptance can be a double-edged sword, because in my thinking about it, I realized that there was a sense of resignation about acceptance in a lot of ways that I was thinking about it. And I want to discuss that with you. Good morning, Hope. Welcome, welcome. So glad to have you here. Hope Wellington Marshall. So let's look at acceptance. What comes to mind for me is the prayer, the Serenity Prayer. God grant me the serenity to no. How does it go? You can help me, I'm sure. God grant me the wisdom, the serenity to accept those things I cannot change. The oh boy, help me out here. I know you guys know it. So God grant me the serenity to accept those things I cannot change. The the maybe it's the strength to accept those things I cannot change. The something to the strength to change those things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So God grant me the serenity to accept those things I cannot change, the strength to change those things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And when I think of that prayer, the hi, Lauren Riley, welcome. So glad you're here. um, we're talking about acceptance, and when I think of that prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept those things I cannot change, what comes up for me is accept it. You may not like it, but accept it. And there's a sense of like ingrained resignation to that, to me, like resign yourself to the fact that you can't change it. And thanks, Hope. um, and I want to make the distinction and explore with you the distinction between, like, well, you just have to accept it, and and I don't think that that's the open-hearted embrace of acceptance and celebration that we really are looking for. And I really invite you to engage with me. Like when somebody says, "Well, you just have to accept it," what's the feeling that you get? Is it a feeling of um, uh, real, true, open-hearted acceptance? Is it a feeling of resignation? Is it a feeling of well, I have to make the most of it kind of thing? So it looks like some of you guys know each other, which is awesome. I hope so. Let's build a community here. That would be phenomenal. So give me some feedback. Will you just, like, this whole idea of acceptance? What is the experience for you? Is it enlivening? Is it enriching when you say, well, you just have to accept it? What happens with those feelings, and how can we move into a true acceptance? And I think that this notion of a true acceptance is truly an open-hearted embrace of something. It's more of a welcoming in than sort of resigning ourselves to it is how it is, so you have to accept it. Anybody have anything to say about that? Give me some feedback here. What kinds of things have you been finding yourself accepting, but maybe without the richness of celebration? So Lauren says, for whatever reason, I just looked up the difference between the two explicit terms. Okay, great. And what did you find, Lauren? I'm excited that somebody is taking the academic approach to this. I love playing dictionary. So acceptance sometimes feels dismissive. All right, I would love to hear more about that, Hope. But, it's just like, you mean, oh, well, you just have to accept it, so forget thinking about it, just accept it and get over yourself. Is that kind of what you're hearing when somebody says, well, you just have to accept that? Feels dismissive of your feelings? Or say more. Let's engage, and I'm curious to see what you found in the definitions, Lauren. So let's, like, this idea of acceptance. It came up when I was thinking about self acceptance, and I invite you to think about this in terms of self acceptance too. Is like there are ways in which I've judged myself that have come to my awareness over the past few days or so through some encounters with other people. So there was a lot of self judgment that I recognized as old patterns, which was amazing. Yeah, so Hope says it feels dismissive when you say, well, just accept it, because it's like, get over yourself. Right. And it's like, whoa, there's an affront about having to get over yourself. Like, what do you mean, just ignore my feelings and accept it? Or it's like a compromise of something really intrinsic that happens when that kind of interaction takes place. So we're wanting to be accepting, but the experience of being accepting is often tinged with make the most of it, and concession rather than embrace. And Hope says, and move on, don't dwell in the past. That's the this is the parent approval kind of thing, I think, is what you're saying. So yeah, what I was thinking about is, in terms of myself, I heard some of these really old messaging patterns coming up about not being okay. Like how I was not okay. And people were judging me for how I was, and I had judgment about how I was. And this was old stuff replaying, resurfacing. So, like, as evolved as we get, periodically something can trigger something and it comes right back. And what was awesome about this is that I got to see it and I got to look at it. And what I recognized was that there was still a part of me that wasn't accepting myself, that wasn't. And then I went the step beyond that, because when I thought about accepting myself, it was like, okay, I'm going to accept myself with the good and the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And what I realized in that statement was that I was still taking parts of myself and making them the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I was judging, and I wasn't really embracing and celebrating who I am and making myself be perfect rather than acceptable. Acceptable. I think this is such an important conversation, because don't you think that when we talk about acceptance and we talk about being acceptable, that there's this underlying sense of inadequacy or judgment? It's acceptable. That does it means it's not great. It's acceptable. It's just passing. Dido says, acceptance as defeat or giving in feels like shrinking down. Acceptance as surrender to grace, mystery, patience, growth feels different. It sure does. It feels expansive. Not easy either, but has meaning, even if I don't exactly know what it is all the time, at the time. Yes, Dido, brilliant. Yes. So, this acceptance, there is a way to have acceptance that is an embrace, that is expansive, that is enlivening and affirming. But I think that so much of the way that we use it is, like you said, Dido, a shrinking down, a contraction. And how can we, like, just feel into this for a minute and then tell me what your experience is about it, okay? Just if you feel into, well, that's acceptable, I'm accepting, you need to accept that. Okay, I'm accepting myself for what I am, meaning the good, the bad, and the ugly. It feels heavy, right? Are you feeling that in your body? Like, if you really connect into that, do you have a sensation of the weight of that? And like Dido said, the shrinking down, the contraction of it? And just chime in and let me know if you feel that. Would you, just to see if you're thinking about it that way? How does it feel in your body? It's heavy, right? It's sort of shadow type energy. It's not life affirming. It's dragging us down. Now, just take a second and think about what it would be to open your arms and welcome yourself, accept yourself wholly and fully as a beautiful, perfect, magnificent being, exactly as you are. Like, to have acceptance, to end, it's transcendent, isn't it? Like, to just allow yourself to feel the vibrance of opening into a true, full celebration acceptance instead of a resignation acceptance. Can you feel the difference, and can you make that internal shift? It's exactly what you're talking about, Dido, which is the surrender to grace and mystery and patience and love and growth and joy and expansion, right? And here's the same word that we can use in both ways. And because the word acceptance has so much baggage to it, maybe we can, when we hear ourselves talking about acceptance and self-acceptance, what does it feel like? And I'd love you to tell me, what does it feel like for you if, instead of saying self-acceptance, if you say self-celebration? I get a chill up my spine. I actually feel a whole course of energy moving through me when I say self-celebration, and allow myself to imagine what that would be like. Like, you can just sort of picture streamers and fireworks and the little horn things you blow at New Year's, with the thing that uncurls, and just self celebration. What does that feel like? And Abuelita says if you drew over stuff, it's just going to make you sick. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're saying exactly. I'm thinking that you're saying if you just uh, accept, try to force yourself to accept stuff that isn't stuff you want to accept. Like if somebody says, well, just accept it, that ultimately you're sort of pushing that down maybe. And you're right, as you deny stuff, as you ignore stuff, it will it will show up physically at some point, whether it's aches and pains or maybe even ultimately illness, if you just ignore things by saying, well, just accept it. And that's a way of saying, okay, ignore it and pretend that it isn't there, and don't filter, don't process it. So I think that's what you're saying, Abuelita. Let me know if I got your message there. And so, how about the rest of you? What does it feel like to think of an open-armed embrace for acceptance? It's like a powerful difference, and maybe we can start using that word celebration and welcoming in place of the the word acceptance that has so much baggage to it. So I'm interested to know what you feel about this, and how this shift can make a difference. Hey, Natalie, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And so, what I realized in this whole inquiry for myself, and thank you, Abuelita. I'm glad I got what you were saying, and thanks for the feedback. So, what I noticed in this whole conversation about self acceptance is that when I was playing with self acceptance, I was still judging myself in a really big way. It's like, well, that's how it is, so you just got to live with it, accept it. And instead, that led me to this shift of mind and heart to be able to say, well, what if in the real spirit of acceptance, like true surrender to this feeling, um, then what would that look like for myself if I accepted myself with that truly open heart? It would mean loving every part of me, loving the part of me that sometimes is stubborn, or loving the part of me that sometimes gets reactive, or loving the part of me and accepting joyfully, like celebrating those parts of me that before I have judged and disenfranchised. So Hope says it feels softer, it's not so loaded when you say celebration, right? Or when you connect to this open-hearted feeling of acceptance. I agree. It feels loving, Hope, right? And it feels softer because it feels loving. And what if we can accept and celebrate ourselves, like the whole picture? Because I'm not me without that occasional stubbornness, or that occasional passion that emerges as what feels like anger, or all of that's part of me. And if I'm going to celebrate me, I get to celebrate it all together, not just pick out pieces. Because if you pick out pieces, then it all falls apart, and it's not what's really here, right? So it's like saying, I love life, but I like the day and not the night. We have the world is day and night, right? So what can you celebrate? How can you experience celebration of yourself, and like the wholeness that you are, all the pieces that you are, and without necessarily putting judgment on it? Like sometimes anger can be a really powerfully transformative thing. Sometimes that anger moves you into action that is a really positive, profound action in the world, and an authentic expression of your heart. You know, we tend to judge a lot of our emotions and interactions, and by judging those things, we don't get to see how they are expressions that can move us and the world forward. And Dido says, surrender to my wholeness, all the parts of myself that I've not loved wholeheartedly. Feels like a spiritual practice, a call to love. Dido, you are such a poet. And yes, it is a call to love, and it is a spiritual practice. But I'm finding, like, right in this moment, as like you feel a lot of energy here, and if you can allow yourself to like work yourself up into a state and recognize, hey, you know what, all of this rich diversity within me, meaning within you, all of the parts of you, including the parts that you have disenfranchised, that you have disowned because you didn't approve of them, or maybe even more so because other people didn't approve of them, and that's where you got your judgment of those parts and pieces. What if we recollect them and we bring them all in as this one big family and this huge dynamic that is interacting and creating this vitality and synergy and dynamism that we call life, and which shows up as what we call personality, you know, the way that we express ourselves. It's all of it, you know, the same passion that moves someone to anger can move someone to incredible joy and love. And so those passions are expressed in many, many different ways. And anger isn't something you need to act out, but it is a really important signal that something's going on that's maybe a violation, or that, you know, that there's a conflict internally even. And Abuelita says, self-celebrate, love yourself, because self-celebrate, love yourself, because this is going to make you so much happier. And everyone around you, they're going to pick on that love, pick up the love that you have for yourself. Exactly. It's really, really true. Like when we love ourselves, we have so much more to give. We have more love to give. That love radiates. And that love starts with that celebratory embrace of acceptance. And I just invite you to play with all the things in your life that you've been accepting, like in a resigned way. And just do an experiment with yourself to find out, what would it be if I celebrated that instead? Even if it's like something that you have all kinds of judgment and resistance around, what if I celebrated that as perfect, as like perfect part of this whole big picture? And this is actually what happened for me, and I'm excited to share it with you. Is just in creating this deeper and deeper true open-hearted acceptance, which I turned into a celebration. It opened up a whole world for me, and it let me let go of all these stories I was having, because I was able to allow the circumstance to be perfect as it was. You know, so if you're feeling overwhelmed,